And as you met before, this is Zane Yusuf Brandon Egger from our Communications for IT Professional Study Group. Now, we are currently trying to find information on a professional IT career through the combination of study and the use of an interview, in order to enlighten other students on possible job opportunities that could be available after finishing their respective courses. First of all, can you please introduce yourself for us?
My name's John. I work in the IT division at UTS. I typically work in some form of tech support, or I cover the knowledge administrator position. At the moment though, I'm kind of working on a project.
Alright, cool.
Yeah.
So what is a knowledge administrator, and what are the roles that are usually undertaken in this profession?
Knowledge administrator, it's just the title we use at UTS. It's sort of similar to knowledge management, or exactly the same more or less. Basically, it involves supervising, creating, maintaining, editing, and overall just managing the communications and information inside an organisation, in this case UTS or the IT part of UTS. Specifically here, for example, that involves if the IT department has internal communications, for example, documents that we use to do our job or anything like that. It involves managing that, managing instructional documents on the online or on the service desk system or various other systems that we've got, which help people to use the systems at UTS. If we're going to bring a system down, or we're going to upgrade a system or something like that, it also involves managing the process of communicating that to the rest of the university, so staff and students. There's a whole bunch of different assets to the job, but it basically involves anything that concerns knowledge, information, or communication.
Well, as a knowledge administrator, can you please describe what you would do on a normal day-to-day basis?
So at UTS, some typical tasks might include, once you get into work, checking and responding to the IT feedback email, which I don't know if you know about it, but it's mentioned in orientation, so if you went to that. Checking and responding to feedback comments on knowledge articles, so if you do look up things online, you can usually often leave comments about them, and they come to the knowledge administrator, who can respond to your comments, whether they're just general advice or if you've got a problem. Updating the general IT information that's disseminated to staff and students. So for example, we've got some screens around campus with information on them. Typically at the around the support counters, we've got screens with information, and that gets updated by the knowledge administrator. Fielding and editing new articles for the knowledge base, so trying to keep it up to date, which is probably not happening really well right at the moment because we're sort of in a state of transition between systems. But yeah, trying to get people who know the things that we want to record to actually write them down, and then editing those documents and hosting them on our systems and stuff like that. And often there's usually some sort of project going on as well.
Okay. So what qualifications and experience are needed to get a job like one at yours at UTS?
Normally, look, my own experience and advice is that if you're interested in something, you can eventually get a job at it if you're persistent. My own qualifications are, I have a TAFE certificate in IT support, I have an engineering degree in telecommunications, various industry certificates, and I've worked here for a long time, so I kind of know how the university runs and the IT division runs. I would imagine that if you had qualifications in communications or journalism or database and information retrieval systems, things like that, they would also be able to get you a job in related fields. The field can be very communicative, as in it could be very communication based, and a journalism degree could help there, or it can be very technical, sort of like database administration, and an IT degree or a more specialist degree can help you there, a technical degree. So it sort of runs a range.
Okay. So what aspects of being a knowledge administrator do you find the most enjoyable?
I like improving efficiency. Not that we have all the resources to make the place run as smoothly as it possibly can. I like helping staff and students and seeing the things that I do improve people's experiences. There's a lot of systems that we have that people are not aware of, or that they don't immediately know how to use, and it feels good to be able to communicate that kind of stuff and to help people be able to use the systems to improve their learning and get more out of their degree.
So I guess helping people.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about some of the more challenging aspects of this job?
As far as challenges go, I mentioned this earlier, working at a university means we're pretty much permanently under-resourced. It can be difficult to get things happening when we have very few staff available to work on projects or very little money available to get things off the ground. As far as knowledge management challenges in particular, keeping knowledge up to date is very difficult. Things are probably changing. I've seen things change over the years, but technical people, and I'm one of them, and I used to be very much like this, don't like communicating as much. They don't like recording things. Often if you give a technical task to a technical person, they'll get the task done wonderfully. But once the system is working, they wash their hands of it and they leave, and that's it. If there's a bit of work to be done at the end where you need to document or where you need to record something or communicate something, it often doesn't get done because they don't see that as part of their job. But it is part of the job. It's really important. There's lots of instances, not necessarily at UTS, but other places where I've worked where a system breaks down and you look for the person who built the system or was responsible for it, and they've left no person who is now responsible for it and no documentation about it, and everything's got to be relearned from scratch. So that's a challenge in knowledge management, convincing people that writing things down is important.
Fair enough. So, with a heightened level at UTS, what would be some social issues that one may find himself as a knowledge administrator?
Occasionally there's an ethical issue. Sometimes people are complaining about things that do involve ethical issues. You've got to care about, especially in an organisation like a university where we record lots of private information about every student and every staff member. You know, we've got birth dates and passwords and email content and on our systems and all this sort of stuff. So you've got to follow ethical and legal principles concerning the management of all of that information. For example, we have to make it very clear during orientation, and this is the policy here, that you need to contact UTS from your UTS email account. We also try to provide this information using different communications methods, the screens, the internal staff emails, things like that, to staff, and also to students during orientation and on information handouts and stuff like that. But yeah, I know that not everybody does it. Some people think it's a silly rule, but it's not. It's important because if we accept emails from Gmail or from Hotmail or Outlook or whatever it is, and they're free emails anyone can make, anybody would be able to call up and get all your information. So there's things like that. There's things like, for example, sometimes there's security breaches at UTS or something that happens in the IT systems, a problem, and it gets reported in the media. And we've got to give out enough information to people who use our systems, which is staff and students, so that they can keep their information secure. But we also need to care about the reputation of the university, so we don't want to give out every single thing we know about the problem that's happening, because it might end up in the media, it might hurt the reputation of the university. There's all sorts of balancing acts to do with that.
So, are there any notable projects that you have worked on?
Oh yeah, that's right. We upgraded the Wi-Fi system a couple of years ago, and that was a big upgrade, and we communicated that mainly to let students know that we were responding to their concerns. So the Wi-Fi system was, reasonably garbage about 3 years ago. Well, basically it was very difficult to get a connection during peak times. So between, say, 10 a.m. and 4 p.m, in lots of areas it was very difficult to get connections. The reason for that was we had two Wi-Fi systems. They were different systems, different protocols, different methods of connection, and they were without going into too much detail, they were effectively conflicting with each other. So everybody was connecting to one of them without even using the system. It was just an automatic connection all the time, and using up all of the connections, and the other system was unable to field any connections. And it took us a while because of bureaucracy, because of money, to fix it up. We basically got rid of the crappy system, and we upgraded the system as well by about 50%. So we introduced about 50% more hotspots, which cost, I think, about $1 million, just for those 50%, that 50% upgrade. And so there was a whole communication plan and project involved in letting people know about it, giving people a say, having discussion forums with students and staff, having sort of small events where we announced the various stages of the upgrade and stuff that was occurring.
For the people in the audience that have seen this interview and would like to become a knowledge administrator, what advice could you give them?
I would suggest having really good language skills and supplementing your technical skills with language and with communication skills. So if you've got the opportunity to do some subjects, communication subjects from the FAST faculty, for example, take it. If you've got electives or something like that, see if you can do writing subjects and stuff like that. Also, it's probably helpful if you can do database subjects because, I mean, part of it is being essentially a database or a knowledge base administrator. That part's probably doesn't sound too difficult because it's a technical skill. But definitely brush up on as much communications as you can. Reading, writing, communicating, writing in various styles, web content management, stuff like that. Because, yeah, that's a lot of it is communication, and you do need to be good at communicating in order to communicate.
Well, I guess that's convenient because we are doing a communications for IT professionals
there you go.
assignment. Well, this concludes the interview. Thanks for allowing us to interview today.
No worries. Thanks heaps.